Hello.
Hi! Today we're going to talk about, going to criticize an article that has been brought to our attention.
Mm-hmm.
The article, we will include the link to that article.
So that you can have a look at it as well.
Yeah, into the description.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of the article is Quadrality and the Theory of Triads.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go through different points that are made in this article, and we're going to talk through that.
Yeah. Okay, so example 1. So one of the statements that the article makes is that among the valued functions, so this is a quote, among the valued functions, the suggestive function is often out of sight due to being weak and cautious.
This pretty much goes back to dimensionality thing.
Yeah, and which we talked about in the previous video.
That it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make, because yes, again, if it's weak, you can't have dualization. It's always like the article says further that while it is an unconscious goal, people rarely prioritize it in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the article says that there is some inner need that a person has, but they're not aware of it, and they just want to go for something else. So again, dualization would be kind of a problem, because apparently you would never, like, if it's always an unconscious goal,
you would never be conscious.
Yes,
your biggest desire of your heart, basically. Yeah.
And so as you do it would be like, oh, hey, what do you want? Oh, I want something completely random that you don't understand. And it's like, oh, okay then.
If anything, we talked about like development of the wrong functions, which can result in something like similar, where you're actually, let's say you're an ILE and you've developed NI, whereas your suggestive is SI, and then so you don't realize they actually like SI once, but then you can develop it, and then you can be, if anything, you can be like, I guess obsessed with it is another word. So like once you realize that that's what you want, okay, so that's basically related to something I actually talked about in a previous video.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Yeah. So do you want to read out the
another claim made in the article is that so you can basically then it goes into like you can group people in a quadra by this missing element. Yeah. And that's how the author ends up with the triad.
Exactly. So basically it starts by saying that suggestive function is inherently weak, and then it says that it's essentially basically because it's so weak, it's basically absent almost. So if you again look at alpha, like they give example of gammas.
Yep.
So they're saying, for example, LIEs have FI vulnerable, which effectively means
FI suggestive.
Sorry,
because it looks like vulnerable now.
I literally said vulnerable. LIEs of course have FI suggestive, but because suggestive is so weak, they effectively don't have it. So then there's a triad of gamma FIs that excludes LIEs altogether, because they have suggestive FI.
Yeah. Which doesn't go very well with the quadra values, and again doesn't go very well with dualization, because again, if that excludes you, that excludes you from your dual. Yeah, it's done. Yeah. That's all that there is.
Yeah, but so basically, criticism here is again, it's kind of the theory based on our criticism of the theory of dimensionality. So, okay.
Yeah. Next example that the author provides is basically really again going back to dimensionality. It's an example of ignoring.
Yeah. So moving on from suggestive to ignoring.
And then that's the same thing. The author says that you can have the 3 types except for ignoring, because out of 4 elements that are in dimensionality, high dimensionality, you would have one which would be ignoring, which would be the least important one, so because unvalued and less dimensions. Which again is odd, because there is also blocking, right? So the blocking of of a type has ignoring first, and then the other aspect. And let's say we have ignoring NE, and then you have FI with it. So you use NE by the means of FI, if you do that at all, if they develop. But that's the order. You can't have like the thing for its own sake done by means of something being stronger or weaker than the thing that by means of which you do it.
Yes.
It's just odd.
Yeah, so,
because blocks matter. That's what like it's the same as with like a lead in creative. You do lead by the means of creative.
Yeah.
You don't do creative by the means of lead.
Yeah. So you actually do your ignoring by means of demonstrative.
Yes.
So
if you
in
have
a way,
developed.
so and then if you're overdeveloped, if let's say you're again an ILE who's developed the wrong functions and they're in gamma now, so they would have NI blocked with TE, and TE would be serving their NI.
Yeah.
So they would look, if anything, they would care more about NI more than TE.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's how
Because
it works.
it's still the end, not the means.
So they resemble ILIs.
It's kind of the same the other way around. If you don't have your aspects developed, you get like more annoyed by your ignoring than by your demonstrative, which is just, oh, okay, this is one is weird, but I would just turn it into something else. So yeah, this is really
so in a way, you care more. So you're either gonna hate it more, or you're gonna think you like it more.
Yeah.
Or you care more about your ignoring function.
Next
is so vulnerable. They're vulnerable.
Yes, there is that phrase in an article which says that it basically goes, all of the producing function can be blocked with the leading function to define the type. However, the vulnerable function is much more rarely used in conjunction with it.
So the assumption is that it is
vulnerable is used,
but just more rarely used in conjunction with.
Which doesn't make sense again, because it's if it's a blind spot.
Yeah. So
how can you use your blind spot?
Going back to again one of our videos. I think.
How can you use something you don't see? Like,
yeah.
It just, you can't, like, it's we're not even talking about using vulnerable. You don't even see it. So
this is a disagreement about
yes,
vulnerable being a blind spot is something you can't develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there are also a number of statements given further, that one of which is TI is the structure of language, T is the objective information conveyed by a language, and F is the implicit aspects of communication through language. By the relationship to language is less obvious. As we talked actually in the previous videos, where we were talking about styles, there are like there are actually two ways of communicating. One is explicit, another one is implicit.
And actually,
TI is the explicit one, because again,
I mean, you could also kind of, this is slightly relevant. Well, I mean, it's still relevant. You could kind of block then TI and FE together and call them like explicit ways of. I mean, it's kind of communication plus plus the decision making, in a way. So in a way, TI and FE is more in your face.
Okay.
Whereas FI and TE are more implicit. But then
that's a slightly that's not the opposites, but the TI is the other side of a FE.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the point here being is that it's FI that is implicit rather than.
Yeah. Well, let's just go one by one, maybe, because they. Basically, if you go with this phrase, that TI is the structure of language, T is the objective information conveyed by a language, and the FE is the implicit aspects of communication through language. So, if you have TI but don't have TE, you can't convey objective information by a language. But you will have a FE, so you will only implicitly use the structure of language, which is kind of a little bit odd to me.
Yeah.
But then if you have T and FI, which he says or she says, whoever the author is, the FI relation to language is less obvious. So you can have T with, let's say you also see TI, but you don't have a FE. So you understand the structure and you convey objective information, but you don't convey implicit. What if you only have a FI and you don't have developed, then you don't use the structural language, you convey implicit aspects, but you don't see the structural language, so you don't use the language, or you use the language bad? Are you like, is that what is implied?
It's difficult to
so basically
make sense of it,
So basically, if you don't have TI, you would be unable to make correct
So again, it's kind of is it implying then that everybody uses TI in one way or another, even if
because
valid
vulnerable
or
can be used.
Exactly.
Yes, I see.
So the implication there is that, let's say you're an FI base, you're still going to be doing your role, so you can still TI.
And even if you're vulnerable, you still
which
can
we've
do
said
it,
you really can't. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but I mean, yes, if we're taking language as communication, then that's a communication style, really. It's TI versus FI, and that's just two ways of doing it.
And TI being explicit, FI being implicit. Yeah.
And FE and T are not about that, really. T is not about even, like...
Yeah. It's not about communication, like we said in the previous video. Alright, moving on.
But also, it's not like, okay, we have to talk about a particular language. You can convey T information, but it doesn't have to be a phrase. It can be like you look at something happening, something being done, then it's T. But okay, next. A C is completely apparent, it says, while an I is completely hidden. And the SI is the balance between the two. This is actually very puzzling to me.
Well, my main problem here is SI being the balance between SC and NI for some reason. Why would you need... if SC and NI, by definition, are dualizing a pair, they're
why SI would be there at all?
Why would you need SI? If anything, it conflicts with both.
Yes, but it's not the only problem, because I don't understand what NI is completely hidden even means. I just don't get it, honestly. It's.
I mean, to be like completely apparent and
I mean, any sensorics is more apparent as a more concrete than any intuition, but intuition is still there. It's not like it doesn't.
It's
actually
concrete versus abstract.
Yes, rather than hidden
it's not clear what the intention behind this new dichotomy is.
Next it says next it ties FE to social.
Again, we had a discussion about this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we had a whole video on that, really.
Yeah, so I don't think there's need to...
And then it has this weird, to me, also tying FISC to sexual. Mm-hmm. Which is...
Again...
why? As in, depending on what you mean, pretty much any aspect can go into that. But if you're talking about a physical act...
That would be just any type,
sensorics.
Either sensorics, exactly.
Why is particular C? I don't know. It's a very particular type of sexual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it says SC is the most masculine of the irrational elements, SI the most feminine, while NI and NE seem to lack gender for the most part.
I'm not even. Yes, again, what does it mean, masculine, feminine in this context? Well, which like. Are we talking about
I mean, the idea
particular traits? Are we talking what traits? Like, I think it's very it's not an general statement.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally, so we come to the topic that we
the styles. Yes, because the article also says the themes of aesthetics and beauty involve SI, pleasantness, good taste. SC outward appearance, which conveys status, impact, and impressiveness, and sexual attraction. And FE adornment and expression through choice of fashion. FI again seems to be absent. So
we said that from our perspective, aesthetics is about basically SI versus NI. SI versus NI. So SI being, so yes, it is about pleasantness.
Yeah.
Agree on that.
Yes.
But NI is, it doesn't even have NI here.
Yeah.
So
I mean, SC is outward appearance, which conveys status, impact, and impressiveness. Is also weird because which conveys status and impact on people. It has to have FI for that, because there is an element on someone. You don't have a status outside of interpersonal relationship. Yeah. It's SCFI, really. Mm-hmm. But themes of aesthetics and beauty don't have to be sensorics, or especially then we jump to FE as well, to make a the third in a because adornment is expressed through choice of fashion. FE is not fashion. It's it depends. Anyone picks clothing based on something. Let's say people can pick it up because it's comfortable. People pick it up because it's practical. Anything can do, and you can have different reasons in different situations. That's a fairly complex topic, really. Why someone buys a particular piece of clothes.
You can't reduce the whole realm of fashion to FE and say fashion is FE.
Also, yes, as we said before, we think that aesthetics and beauty are themes of SI versus NI.
Yes.
So these are two different ways of looking at aesthetical matters, as we said in the previous video, which we'll also link in the description.
And then finally, I think the last big one is about quadras. So the statement made about quadras. So alpha is the quadra of unity, harmonious communal interaction, understanding the universe as a whole. Beta.
Let's take it one by one.
Okay. So again, I'm not sure what unity really means.
Unity can be a SI.
Again,
that would make sense.
Yeah, I would say I don't have that big a problem with alpha, although because understanding the universe as a whole understanding universe as a whole, it is indeed like an alpha enterprise. You're trying to make sense of the world and kind of what is the ultimate truth and all that. I guess that I mean.
But harmonious communal interactions, a harmonious interaction or harmony in itself would be any SI quadra, so it would be alpha or delta. Especially if you're talking about communal interaction, that would be actually delta, because it's harmonious relationship is what is being described.
Yeah. But then kind of if you put them together, so you have, if you say communal harmonious interaction is SI, and then I send the universe as a whole would be any TI. So I guess.
Any TI, yes, is fine.
So then, so I guess
if you just go with just
harmonious, so we don't strongly disagree. Let's say.
I mean, again, it's hard because harmonious would be true in a SI sense, but it wouldn't be true like it would. I think what they go with is like harmonious coexistence. It's definitely a FI. Alpha would be more about harmony, as in like, I'm in a physically harmonious state and I'm happy, I'm enjoying the moment, I'm having fun in a free sense.
So it's about you being in harmony rather than communities being.
It has the element of SI of the harmony that also delta has, but it doesn't have the FI element of it. Then next.
Yeah, beta the quadra of duality, good fighting against evil, us versus them.
That's our favorite.
So, I mean, our take on this is this actually describes delta rather than beta.
Well, I mean, guess good fighting against the evil is definitely delta theme.
Big major delta theme.
I mean, obviously delta's good fighting against evil means not like, we enjoy the fight. Enjoying the fight is beta theme, but a good fighting against evil means we are making the world better.
So it's almost like betas enjoy fights for their own sake, whereas deltas don't enjoy fights for their own sake. If they're conflict avoiding, it's about it's for some bigger purpose. So for example,
it's not about fighting.
Defeating the evil.
Yeah, it can be.
So if you have to, if the only way to defeat evil is by fighting, then okay.
Yeah, if you can teach them not to be evil, that's even better for delta. Yeah.
I mean, again, so we might. I'm not sure if we've actually discussed this before, but there are so like your opposing quadras, your conflicting quadras, they kind of mirror each other in a way, which is again, it's very interesting. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland kind of situation where it's like a
true.
Yeah. So kind of seems similar, but then so different. So it's very bizarre. But so in beta, you have the idea of fights, but they're for their own sake, and it's not good versus evil. It's kind of like more.
No, it's a fight itself. It's a conflict. It's a.
But I mean, you do have the idea of maybe not of a good person, but I want to say like a cool person, maybe for.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of. A cool person fighting for, well, A, just fighting because they enjoy it, but also B, because it's about the will of individuality, kind of. Like, I want to, this is what I want, and I'm going to get it. Yeah. So it's kind of you defending fighting for your, the things that you want.
Yeah, I wouldn't
be it like a, I don't know, knight fighting a dragon to win the girl, or whatever. So it's just kind of
Yeah, so good. Basically, good and evil are not beta themes at all.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are
moral
FI and
themes.
E.
Yes.
I mean, again,
I mean, they are FI. Let's say.
Yeah, FI,
you can.
Sure.
Yeah. They are FI, not necessarily an E, but
okay,
an E is an additional thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have gamma, the quadra of multiplicity of independent things, facts, or people. I think. So just to comment on this quickly, I think this is the Rhinian dichotomies coming into play, or I'm not, where gammas are seen as individualists.
Oh.
Maybe. But then alphas would also be individualists by that same token.
I don't think it's actually Rhinian. I think it might be because there is that weird confusion about FI. It's just the statement is that for some reason FI.
Yes.
Being introverted, coming from Jung, is a different
about
thing.
What you want rather than what is determined by culture.
Which is not socionics.
Which is not socionics, yes. So I think, to be honest, I remember this like kind of idea that gammas are supposed to be like the lone wolves, kind of like they have their own goals, they pursue their goals, they're very like individualists. Like they have their own sense of what they want in life.
Just like us, Vedas, they are like pursuing their own goals, yes, as in the C sense, but they also are doing it in relation with other people. They're always aware and
power
mindful.
Dynamics.
Yes, power dynamics and stuff.
And all that, yeah.
So it's not like they are, like as it says here, independent.
Again, so in that sense, it doesn't really make sense to me to talk about gamma as the quadra of multiplicity of independent things. And finally, delta seems to have no particular attitude with respect to number.
which I guess assumes that.
Oh right, so this was okay. I kind of just realised what they were trying to say. So, alpha is unity, beta is duality, gamma is multiplicity, and delta is So,
which is it's just not. I mean, there are different things. One thing that adds to this, whatever numbers topic is FI, because relations between people. So if you care about relations, you do need numbers. The relations are meaningless if you don't have numbers. Yes, you still FI is much more than just relations. So it is about you as well, and it is about your values, morals, etc., and it's about individual motivations. But it's all happens only in relationships.
Yeah.
And through the relationships.
Yeah.
You do need that for FI. Another thing is generalization of NE. That gives you also additional element of numbers. And therefore, you would have, gammas only have FI, they don't have NE. So, they pursue the thing they
I think,
want,
if anything, again, maybe this is me, maybe this is my NE at play now. So
this is
But if anything, and again, this is actually maybe my take on Rhinian dichotomies, I'm not sure, I'm not entirely sure about this, but so, because generally alphas and gammas are seen as, what are they seen as? Individual Democrats, and we're seen as collective. But wait. What I would say is that if you look at this, so betas are described as beta the quadra of duality, us versus them. I would say that theme is probably actually yes. I mean, we do have that theme, just like deltas do.
Yes.
Whereas alphas and gammas don't. I don't think. Not like that. I mean, maybe, I don't know. So
questionable.
Well, but with delta, I mean, it's actually it's good versus evil. So you do have that, kind of like Harry Potter situation where you have the good guys versus the bad guys. So it's us versus them. In beta is basically you and the people you care about versus those that are in the way of your happiness, whatever. So that's definitely true. Again, I'm not sure what the opposite of that would be for alphas and gammas, but I would just.
I think you're actually going back to I don't think Rhinian dichotomies. I don't remember exactly, but I think aristocrat Democrat is different from collectivist.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Okay.
It needs to be checked. I don't know. I never liked Rhinian dichotomies much.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think you're coming back to the same thing of if you have any, it's one thing. If you have a phi, it's another thing. If you don't have either, it's another thing. So it's just a different, like, yes, deltas just have everything of, like, a phi, an E thing that gives them this good versus evil, and actually T that gives them.
Sure.
And betas just have an IFE.
Yeah.
That what creates that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I like this person. This is the impression that I adore, admire, and so they're my person.
Anyway, what we're saying is just like that this idea of unity or like disjointness versus like, I don't know. I was gonna link it to say maybe betas and deltas share that kind of idea of duality, whereas alphas
no, but gammas
don't.
have a phi. Gammas have a phi, therefore you have this, like, for example, it can be family relationships that are very important, and these are my people because they're family.
That's the thing, because these are like umbrella terms, like some like generalizations that are not actually helpful. I think they actually are skewing the picture. I mean, it's very tempting, like you've just seen, I've also like tempted to just generalize and like, does this make sense? But then it kind of breaks down.
Illustration of development, the wrong
aspects. And then it breaks down very easily. Like it just like, it doesn't really hold water.
We have 26 minutes though. I think we should stop.
Yes. Right, wonderful. Let us know your thoughts in the comments
Yes,
section.
please. We would really like to have a discussion. So please do comment. We'll link the article so it's easy to discuss that. And yes, please do subscribe because we're going to have more videos.
Great.
Thanks. Bye.